Hey everybody. I feel like I'm on the verge of coughing and I haven't been able to cough in over a minute. It's Hayden here, by the way. You listen to the voice of Hayden Simpson. Sometimes you have to introduce yourself with a little style and grace. You're on a radio show in the morning. This is a great episode. This is, I think, a turning point for the show. I think the show is mostly interested in sort of focusing on the data and the facts and the behind the scenes stuff. And I think this episode, I realized I'm like, okay, we can use the facts to jump or to springboard into a more personal conversation and a more personal interview. And I think that's where I think the show should go. If I'm wrong, please let me know. If you like the way the show was, the way it was in the first few episodes, I'm happy to go back to that. But I just felt like what's easier and way to stand out is like I can get people to talk about their own life, their own personality, their own everything, everything about them, as opposed to a movie that they may have some knowledge of, or they might be very knowledgeable about, but ultimately they're never going to know a movie as well as they're going to know themselves, right? So that's kind of the logic behind the sort of transition to a more personal interview, and that gives us more opportunity to get to know the guests a little bit better. That it's not just about the movie; it's about what the movie means and how we can use that movie to talk about other things in life, other important things. Like in Justin's case, we talk about fatherhood, and I think that's just like a natural, you know, part of the discourse when you talk about American Dad as a show that the Roger is the alien this week is Roger the alien from American Dad. Fatherhood is a natural part of that conversation, I think, but maybe it's tangential. I don't know. Let me know. Anyways, this is a great episode. I'm really happy with it. Justin is a great guy, and he talked amply about and knowledgeably about the character and about himself, and I think it's a great mix. So I look forward to feedback, and if you guys are still listening, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy the episode.
Good morning, USA. I've got a feeling that today's the day we talk about Roger the alien from American Dad on My Favorite Alien right now.
What exactly are we dealing with here?
Old and busted, new hotness.
And what could that possibly be?
Alien.
They do exist.
You boys have been watching the X-Files too much.
It is possible.
Welcome to My Favorite Alien, the podcast where we learn all there is to know about pop culture aliens. It's pretty simple. It's a good idea for a podcast. Okay? Let's just lay off me. It's a good idea. It tells you. This week on the show, we're discussing the alien that is able to transform into whatever the plot requires. That's right. It's Roger the alien from American Dad. And joining me is a real mensch, a real writer, and a real slice of bologna. It's Justin Rawana. Justin, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Hayden. This is so fun. What a great idea.
It's not fun yet. We haven't started yet. But hopefully it will continue to be fun for you as the interview. We'll skip the 9/11 stuff.
But I had so much prepped for the 9/11 stuff.
There actually is a 9/11.
Pages.
There's a 9/11 joke. We'll get to it. Maybe we won't. Justin, when did you first encounter the alien, Roger? And tell me about your experience with him.
I think like everyone else, I started on American Dad. Family Guy was kind of in its prime. I was a 15-year-old boy, so that kind of humor, really hit for me at that time.
I challenge you to a race around the world. Go!
And so they announced this spin-off. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a watch, whatever. And early on, the premise of the show was, it's this all-American family. Stan works for the CIA. He's got a ditzy wife. But one of the big twists of the show, I guess you can call it sort of like the Stewie wild card kind of character, was Roger the alien who lived in the attic. And early on, he's gone through a lot of changes since those early seasons. But early on, he was kind of almost like just like a bad roommate. He would sort of like walk into the kitchen, say something obnoxious, knock something off onto the floor. If he didn't get his way about something, he'd be really pissy. He'd basically just be like a bad roommate. And he would just kind of go. But over the seasons, he sort of evolved into something else and got so much better because, like you said in his intro, he kind of just started putting on these costumes, putting on these characters every episode, and it was always something tied to the plot. And so it became essentially like this walking, talking plot device. And like the humor was always there. I think he was still funny from day one. But as the season sort of went on and that character sort of matured and the writers kind of figured out how to use him and not overuse him. Well, sometimes they do overuse him. What are you going to do after 15 seasons? I just applaud what he's turned into. He is so funny and he makes me laugh every single time. I was thinking about this the other day. Can I think of an animated character I've enjoyed this century more than Roger Smith? I really can't come up with one. Joke for joke, line for line, episode for episode. I think is the funniest animated character of like the 21st century.
The 21st century. Okay, so if you start the century at the year 2000, which is what you're doing, right?
Hey, I remember when the show started in like 2010 makes sense. So yeah.
Because in the last century,
century,
like there's been a lot of great animated characters.
But yeah, absolutely.
But this century, I agree.
Yeah,
well,
you can't
I don't know
beat,
if I
like
agree.
Homer. You're never gonna top Homer. Homer's just like
Homer's pretty dope.
Tut, gentle Marge, for here in the boudoir, the gourmand metamorphosizes into the voluptuary.
No. No. Well, let's be realistic about this. 21st century, though, because, Family Guy kind of went like this, and Simpsons, kind of went like this, and to me, American Dad's just been going like that.
Yeah, we live in the Rick and Morty age, though, so you got to remember that.
That's why I always say, shum, slippity dop.
That is true, but that is also a cultural blind spot of mine, I will admit now on your podcast. Yeah, I know. And I love Dan Harmon and everything else he's done. I've never really gotten around to it. Maybe I will. I keep saying one day I will, but yeah, I respect it for what it is. Never seen a scene fit.
Really toxic fan base, but good show. So Roger was created and voiced by Seth MacFarlane, who also, I would say provides the distinctive voice of Roger.
Yeah.
How do you think the character's voice contributes to his identity and appeal? And have you ever encountered someone whose voice left a lasting impression on you? Because I dated a girl in high school whose voice was like super weird and super distinctive, but like everyone made fun of her. But I thought it was kind of cute.
The first parts, where did that voice come from? One of Roger's main character attributes, I would say, is that he is aggressively sexual across all genders. It doesn't really matter. It just has to be like warm and have a heartbeat, and Roger's into it. Roger has been sexually attracted and or tried to kill every member of the Smith family like multiple times.
I dreamt of Paris again last night.
And so he was always like that since day one. And his voice has always been like, it's a little bit like, it's got a lilt to it. I'm not going to say it has like a sort of, how do you describe it without saying like, it sounds like a stereotypical gay man from like the 80s.
You could say stereotypical gay man from the 80s. That works.
I think that's kind of what he was going for. He sounds a little bit like, I think I heard once that like the inspiration was kind of Andy Dick.
Really?
Yeah, in both like
cool.
voice and a little bit of like demeanor, which is something they addressed later on.
And hypersexual too, right?
And hypersexual. And Andy Dick came to live with the Smiths, I believe, in like season 4, just to like get all that out in the open. So they did actually lean into it. But I'm trying to think of a memorable voice that has always stuck with me. Yeah, it's interesting. And I like I told you, I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario, and people seem to say that I never really got like the northern accents. I think it's because I watched a lot of TV, so I just speak like Americans all the time.
Right.
But there were some kids, definitely in my high school, because my high school had like an influx of like Dutch farmers, and they had a very specific accent, way of speaking, parlance, slang. And there's a couple guys there, and they all kind of look the same. They're all like 7 feet tall, blonde, literally worked the farm like 4 hours before they came to high school. So they're all like kind of like this, just like shoulders that could barely fit through the door. And they all had these very deep voices I could still remember. And they all played like linebackers on the football team. And very nice people. I actually got along with a lot of them. Yeah, that was a specific accent. I can't even I can't even do it. What does a Northern Ontario / Dutch accent actually sound like? It's a little bit hosiery. It's a little bit
Going to the
Letterkenny, I
bar,
would say.
eh?
It's a
Going
little
to
bit
the bar.
Letterkenny. It actually is like 80% the Letterkenny thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Never heard of it.
No, never heard of it. No, just
Welcome to Letterkenny.
No, I'm kidding. I've seen it on TikTok.
it does
I don't
pretty
watch the
good
show.
numbers. Yeah.
So initially, you pointed this out. Roger was confined to the Smith household in like early seasons, similar to Alf. But the creators expanded the role by introducing disguises, allowing him to break free and interact with the outside world. In your own life, have you ever felt confined by circumstances and found creative ways to break free or express yourself?
Yeah, I moved.
From Thunder Bay?
From Thunder Bay, yeah, absolutely.
Do you ever
I think
call it T-Bay?
No, that's just something visitors do. We show proper respect and we pronounce the full name. Almost like you're scolding a child, like Thunder Bay. That's the full name, and that's what you should say.
All right. You respect
But,
the Thunder. I get you. I get you.
I respect the Thunder. Yeah, absolutely. It's a badass name. Yeah, I probably would have even left earlier, but my dad was a prof at the university, which means I got a heavily discounted tuition.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, right after high school, I did want to leave because, well, not to get into like all of it, but like not a lot of people of color, not a lot of people who looked like me. And while it was a friendly place to live and I did really enjoy growing up there, I never really felt 100% a part of it. Hockey wasn't my thing. Everybody plays hockey. Everyone was white with like a small indigenous community. That was kind of about it, especially when I was there. Apparently it's more diverse now. And it is actually. Every time I go back, I'm like, hey, those people weren't here before. That's awesome. But yeah, I stayed for university kind of because I had to, because I got a big discount on tuition because my dad was a prof there. And the day I graduated in, 2008, I signed up to go teach in the UK and I left. Left for 2 years, then did film school for 1 year, and then came to Toronto in when was CFC? The year before CFC. 13? Something like that?
CFC was 2016.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. So I came in 2014, and it was the best thing I ever did. I just, especially in CFC and like getting into this industry, I immediately found my people that like I hadn't really found in Thunder Bay before. Just like people who didn't really care about hockey stats, but more cared about, the special features on the Buffy DVD box set, that sort of thing. So yeah, it took me a long time to really find my people, and I'm so glad that I did it. I probably could have did it earlier, like I said, but yeah, much happier here. And I still go home to visit all the time. People ask me, can you ever go back to live in Thunder Bay? I said, man, I like where I'm at.
Yeah. Might be nice to visit, but like, once you find your people, it's hard to let go of that,
It's hard to let go of that. Isn't that what we're all searching for? Just like-minded people who have shared interests and whatnot.
Not me. I'm looking for gold, but that's fine.
You got your pan out there in the river? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's what's his name from Deadwood?
Well, ma'am, I've got myself a working gold claim.
What is his name?
Yet another show I haven't given the time of day to.
Oh, really? Deadwood's. Well, I got into an argument about somebody about Deadwood. They said Deadwood's not a good show. I think Deadwood's fantastic, but it's very rigid.
That's fine. I know it's a good show. Like, enough respectable people who have good taste have told me it's a good show.
It's not for everyone. I will give them that. I will say that. Roger is known for his myriad of disguises, each with their own backstory.
You poached my bear!
It sort of like becomes a bit of a plot device in the show. Like there's one moment where he's like, "Oh, I hope I'm not here," and then you cut to Roger as the secretary.
Let's just pray that for once, when we get there, he doesn't turn out to be me. Ah, crap. Can I help you?
And
it's very self-aware. Yeah,
it's very self-aware. Have you ever adopted a different persona or role to fit it in various social situations?
Have I ever?
Like smoking a cigarette when asked, or like smoking a joint when asked when you don't really smoke joints.
Oh, sure. I think more as a younger guy, just trying to figure out who the heck I was, yeah,
Right.
I put on multiple hats, just trying to figure out what I liked, and I would follow groups into bars and clubs and places that some of them I really, really liked, some of them I did not care for. But I think that's pretty typical of someone who's like, what age are we talking about now? 18, 19, 20, especially someone like me, where, as I was saying before, I had good friends, absolutely, that I could relate to and talk to and hang out with, but like, just no one who I could, again, going back to that Buffy box set, who could I talk to about episode like season 3, episode 9, blah, 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 when Spike did X? I really didn't have those people. So yeah,
Spike
I would
did
like,
X on Buffy?
well, except they called it something weird, like on Saved by the Bell. What was the Saved by the Bell drug that made everyone crazy? It had a crazy name.
Remember.
It was like Evanescence. No, not Evanescence. That was a band.
Evanescence?
It was
the
called
band?
Evanescence. It was something along the lines of Evanescence. But no, sorry. Okay, trying on different personas. I remember going to like punk clubs in Thunder Bay. There were quite a lot of like punk rock clubs in Thunder Bay. These bands would just roll up in these like grungy vans and just play for hours and hours. And I would go to these places just like completely not fitting in, but my friends wanted to go because I grew up in a very musician-y kind of circle. So my friends are like drummers and guitarists and stuff like that. And just like going to places like that, I'm like, this is kind of fun, but also that guy just took an elbow to his ear and now he's bleeding out his eyes like in the mosh pit. I'm like, I don't think this is for me either. But I would go, and like, you know, a little bit props to young me for just like trying things, because I wouldn't have known that I'm not really about that scene. But you know, as you kind of grow up, you kind of find your thing. And I think these days, no, I don't really put on different personas anymore. I kind of know what I am. It took me almost 40 years to get there, but kind of what you see is what you get. You know, I'm a guy who likes wearing, I don't know if you can see this, flowery sort of sweaters that kind of like go down
Where do
the
you get
side.
those?
Where did I get this? That's a great question. I got this at Simon's in Square One.
I'm a natural interviewer. Despite minimal changes in his disguises, such as different outfits or wigs, Roger's true alien form is very obvious. Yeah, within the shows, it's always just like, oh, he's just a person. What's something obvious about you, that most people overlook?
Something obvious about me that people overlook. Oh, what a great question. I'm gonna need a second for that one. Most people overlook. Do I feel overlooked sometimes? You know, sometimes I feel, and this has sort of followed me into my late 30s, and I hope it goes away. I don't think it's going to. If I'm in a room with a lot of people, say like a party or something like that, people kind of assume that I'm kind of just, I don't know if I have resting miserable face, but I think I kind of do. Because I find that people are constantly checking on me. Constantly. I could be sitting on a couch, just enjoying a drink and just kind of just hanging out, enjoying the music. And someone will like come up to me and put a hand on my shoulder and be like, "Are you okay?" I'd be like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm having a great time. I'm just and this has been happening to me for like 20 years. I don't know what it is, but if I just exude just like a negative energy, but honestly, 99% of the time, I'm fine. Especially if I'm in public. I'm usually in public because I want to be and I'm in a good mood. But yeah, there's something, I don't know if this answers your question, but this is something I've realized recently, because I think it just happened at like a family gathering like the other day. Just like someone was like, hey, are you having a good time, dude? Like, yeah, no, I'm great. I'm eating my food. I'm eating my Guyanese chow mein. My daughter's just hanging out playing with blocks. I'm great. For some reason, people just assume I'm having a bad time anytime I'm out. Maybe I have to work on my face. Some people just do that. They just kind of look into a camera and be like, okay, if my eyebrows go a little bit higher, if my eyes are a little bit wider, like a little more alert, maybe I just have to do that.
I think you should get really into plastic surgery, and I think that's the solution to your problem.
I told my wife the other day that if there's one thing I was going to do, it might just get I've known like a weird amount of people in like their early 40s, like not even old, like early 40s, who are like getting their eyes done. Just like, you know, getting this little touched up, getting this little done, a little bit there. Apparently it takes off years. I'm like, yeah, I'd be open to that if I start aging poorly.
I don't know. I feel like that's a slippery slope, and then all of a sudden you look like
there you
Meg
go.
Ryan, or
all of a sudden your sideburns are like behind your ears because you've pulled your face too goddamn tight.
Well, then
yeah,
comes
you're
hair.
right. You're right. It is a slippery slope. I'll just accept age gracefully and or ungracefully, whatever happens.
Yeah. So Roger met the Smiths after saving Stan's life at Area 51, leading Stan to rescue him and offer refuge in their home. So this backstory sort of establishes Roger's integration into the classic family dynamic. Have you ever had experience where a single act changed the course of a relationship or brought someone new into your life?
A single act? Yeah, absolutely. Maybe tying back to before, when I left Thunder Bay. I don't know if you caught it, but the first place I went, which looking back, I can't believe I really did this. I just like signed a form and did it. I went all the way to London, England. I'd never been there before. My sister had spent time there in like the 90s. My mom was there in like the 70s, and they'd always like talked about how fun it was and how great of a city it was. And at the time, coincidentally, like I graduated from teachers college, and they needed teachers. There was just not enough teachers in England. And so they were paying a lot of money. They were giving you housing. And I said, there's a big bulletin board like in my teacher's college being like, sign your name here, go teach in England, make money and travel Europe. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll do that. Totally. And I did that for 2 years. It was amazing. I got to see, and I met some incredible people, other Canadian teachers. We all kind of got put into the same like residence together. And a handful of those teachers I'm still very close friends with. One of them is like the emergency contact for my daughter's daycare. My friend Don, who I'm seeing next weekend and also has a kid, where our kids are around the same age. Looking back, like that was an incredible risky thing. Like I went overseas, like, yeah, the people still speak English and stuff like that. Well, it's not like I was going to Taiwan or anything, but that was a big move. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, that was a big deal. I said that. Like, why did my parents let me do that? But
you're
I'm
an
really
adult
glad
at that
that I
point,
did.
though. You're allowed to do whatever you want.
I mean, I was legally. I was still like 23. Like, I feel like a lot of 23-year-olds make horrible decisions. But that turned out to be a really great decision. I made a lot of lifelong friends who I still am very close with today. And it's really cool because we're all kind of having kids around the same age. So we all kind of babysit and hang out together and do the whole play date parent thing. But that was a bold decision that really changed the course of my life for the better, I think. And I realized I didn't want to be a teacher. So that was key.
Right.
Because of
good to get that before you become a teacher. Like for like a career, like for like where you live. Like I mean, it's one thing to teach. Like to teach is a job, but to be a teacher is a career. And I think there is a subtle distinction between those two. There's plenty of people that take teaching jobs just to make ends meet or to have cultural experiences. My brother is moving to Korea like next week because he got a job. He's in his 50s teaching English to little Korean children.
Oh, look at that. That's a change.
For sure. I still think he got scammed somehow, but I don't know how. So over time, Roger has adapted to life on Earth, often immersing himself in the life and human culture through his various personas. This immersion allows him to explore different facets of humanity, including having kids. He has human kids in the show with some of his characters. How has fatherhood changed your outlook on other humans?
Wow. How has fatherhood changed my outlook on other humans? I am definitely more attuned to other parents and their strifes. And, this is an obvious answer, but being a young guy, seeing families out in restaurants and grocery stores and just like the level of disruption was like, okay, guy, like get your kids in order. Come on.
Right.
And then you have the kid and you're like, oh, there's literally nothing to be done. If they melt down, they are going to melt down. And it doesn't really matter who's around them. They have no sense of like, oh, we're in the canned goods section at Safeway. Oh, I have to behave here. No, that's not how they think. They're just going to do what they're going to do. And everyone around them kind of has to be okay with it. I was
right.
I was at the grocery store the other day, not with my daughter, but there was a woman ahead of me who had like a, I don't know, 3-week-old, like a brand new baby, like still dripping, like on her shoulder.
With the price tag on it?
With the price tag on it on the big toe, $9.99. It was a special, obviously. And she would just
only kids are that cheap.
If only kids were that cheap. Oh, yeah. If only. But she had just like upchucked like a gallon of milk onto mom. And mom hadn't really noticed. So I'm just like, I just tapped her on the shoulder like, hey, kid, puke everywhere. And normally I would have been like totally grossed out. I don't know, 10 years ago, I would have been like grossed out and like went to a different aisle. But now I'm just like, oh yeah, kids do that. They absolutely do that all the time. I just tapped her on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, I have rags in the car if you need. I have like wet wipes in the car.
Right.
I have everything you could possibly need. So I'm much more understanding as to like what is involved in going to children, raising children, and much more patient. And yeah, I think it's just made me a better person. My daughter has made me a better person, Hayden.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's a little cliche, but it's kind of true.
All right, let's get into the dossier. Okay. So this is a little different for those listening at home. We're just gonna spit some facts, and we're just gonna riff. We're gonna riff on the little bits. Oh, I said earlier, Roger's been on Earth since 1947. He arrived as a result of being tricked into believing he was the decider responsible for humanity's fate. In reality, he was used as a crash test dummy.
Yeah.
You ever been manipulated by like people like that? Like, you're thinking you're doing one thing and then you're doing another?
Interesting.
I don't think I have.
Geez.
Yeah.
I don't think I have been like maliciously manipulated. I was
That you know of. Because
that
like
I know of.
if they're really good at manipulating you, you don't know.
Exactly.
You don't
totally.
know.
Maybe I'm being masterminded in this very moment. No, like in high school, I
Yeah,
definitely
you
had
are
a
by
car.
me, by being on my podcast.
There you go. In high school, I had a car. Like most of my buddies did, but I had like my own like dedicated car that was mine. So I definitely became like the driver of the group for a couple of years there.
When
where
you
I
went
would just
going out egging?
Did we ever go egging? That's a great question. Egging is one of those things that I see in movies and like YTV movies and stuff like that. I don't know if I ever actually did it in real life. We went TPing, we went toilet papering because there's something like majestic about just like throwing the roll and seeing it like spiral in the air and engulf the tree. There's that's like art. Egging, no,
sure.
egging's too messy, and eggs are expensive.
You're not
man.
cleaning it up. It's their job. It's here the people. Okay. So Roger's species has an extremely long
no.
lifespan.
I think I have one. I think I have one.
Oh, you
where
know? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then why didn't you say it?
Because it just kind of popped into my head, and it wasn't like a malicious. I was misdirected, and I didn't realize until years later what. Like I had a meeting. I had a meeting like in this industry, and it was a producer who I think had messaged me sort of privately and was like, "Hey, I heard you're from Thunder Bay, and we're working on a show about Thunder Bay. Would you like to come in, or would you like to just like go grab a drink and just like talk about coming on board?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, great. This is like my first year in the industry. I had no experience, nothing. I was gonna meet everybody anywhere. You want to meet me about a show? Absolutely." So I went to this. It was very pleasant. I went to this bar. We had a drink. We talked about my experience in Thunder Bay, stories about growing up, what it was like, what the people are like, that sort of thing. And it turns out that was false. No one was developing a show about Thunder Bay. The producer just kind of wanted to get a vibe for me in general. And instead of like talking about the show they were actually working on, I guess their strategy was to talk about something that like I was passionate about. And it took me years to figure out this is what actually happens, because then I got hired on the show like 3 months later, and they're like, "Yeah, we had a really good talk." I'm like, "So it's not about Thunder Bay?" He's like, No. I wanted to get you talking about something that you knew about." I'm like, "Oh, interesting." Like I probably could have just talked about the show. I don't know if there was like a legal thing where they couldn't like talk about it at that point or something. It was a really weird way to do an interview for a show. But I got the gig after all, and it was a little roundabout, and it took me like 2 years to figure out. Oh, that's what they did. Yeah, they didn't actually admit it. It took me a while to figure it out what they actually did.
That's pretty crazy. But producers will do anything, and they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. Roger's species has an extremely long lifespan, possibly even being immortal. He's like 1,600 years old, I think, in the show. Just as long as they consume alcohol. So this sort of explains his constant drinking and party lifestyle beyond his hedonistic tendencies. Do you have any bad tendencies, do you think, like that are comparable to his? Like, I don't really like drink anymore, but I smoke a lot of pot. Like, a lot of pot. And I wish I was smoking it right now, but I got to be focused and sharp and witty and stuff.
Fair enough. I've become a bit of a boring dad. I kind of decided, I didn't really decide. It just kind of happened, like subconsciously. And I wasn't even thinking about it. When I had a kid, I didn't want to be the dad who was just like breathing beer into my infant's face kind of thing. And this is around about the time where like non-alcoholic beers were really taking off. Like Athletic was everywhere, like Zero Guinness, that sort of stuff. Have you heard of Athletic? Oh, it's just like I go curling every Sundays by like High Park, and like we'll have a beer
I know
afterwards.
the spot.
Yeah. It's a great spot. I've been curling there for years.
Have you really? I went curling there once, and it was a fantastic experience. But I was a horrible curler.
No, there's no such thing as a natural curler. Like you gotta do it for years before you figure out like the balance and shit. But that's one thing I carried over into like from Thunder Bay. Everyone curls in Thunder Bay. It was one thing I could actually do. But also I like the beer afterwards, and usually there's like Chinese food or something. But yeah, that was like the only time I would have a beer, and now I don't really drink anymore. I've never really smoked weed. Add vices that I have now. Oh man. I do find at the end of the day, I am so tired that I don't really want to interact with anyone past like 9 p.m.
Right.
And that's not great if you have like, a marriage to maintain and friendships and that sort of thing. So I do sometimes catch myself being like, I could catch myself mentally shutting down at 9 because I'm so tired from like, work plus child rearing. They demand quite a bit of energy. I feel myself shutting down, but I have to like wake myself back up and be like, oh, no. I have to like ask my wife how her day was and like, take out the trash. And I'm a homeowner now, so there's always something to do around the house. So I have had to like retrain myself to sort of not shut down, because sometimes I would, or I used to, and I would just go downstairs in the basement at 9 p.m., throw on a movie, throw on some TV, open a bag of chips, and basically I'm a big giant do not disturb sign, and I will get like snappy and snippy if someone does come down and like ask something of me. But I'm getting a little bit better of catching myself because, I'm not an island anymore. I was for the majority of my life, but I'm a few years into marriage now. I'm 2 years into child rearing, and things just have to be done. So do I get enough alone time? Probably not, but that's for when she goes off into college.
Yeah. And when you get a divorce.
Yeah.
No,
it sounds so expensive and I don't want to.
Yeah. Does your wife? Never mind.
Why not? Go ahead. You can edit it out. Who cares?
Oh, yeah. Does your wife work?
Yeah. She works for a Bank of Montreal.
So you might come out on top of the divorce, getting paid.
Does she out-earn me? That's the question. I've never actually done the math. I think I out-earned her a little bit in the last few years, but no, I think I might owe her.
All it takes is one bad year, bro.
I had plenty of those.
Or 4. And then you find yourself doing a podcast and you're like, oh, I used to be a writer. No, I just do podcasts.
Dude, yeah, I know. I have a mortgage now. I can't even begin to think that way. I'm like, am I going to go back into teaching? Oh, no. Is this what it's become?
Yeah. Someone sent me a teaching position like a web link at a college. I think at Windsor College or something. Or it was like on superheroes, and it was remote. And it was like maybe I could teach the shit out of that, but I don't think they hired people who don't have college degrees, which I don't. I went to university. I studied. Well, I didn't really study. I took a lot of classes, and I left. It's like I realized I wanted to work in TV, and it's like once you make that realization, an English degree just feels really stupid and useless. So I just completely pivoted. Anyways, Roger's alien biology requires him to express unpleasant emotions. If he doesn't, these feelings turn into poison and potentially kill him. This necessity often leads to outrageous or selfish behavior. Do you have any compulsive behaviors that you would like to get rid of?
Yes. I always feel the need to say exactly what is on my mind. And especially when you're married or in any sort of like long-term relationship with a person, sometimes that's not the best just operating mode. Sometimes you just have to like censor yourself and, not point out every little thing that is perhaps bothering you or irking you. Like, I don't know, we've been unpacking for like 2 weeks now. We've only been in this house for like 3 weeks. And like, there's been a box at the top of the stairs since we got here. And I said something about it once because it's all my wife's stuff. I literally have no idea where any of this stuff goes. I could probably learn, but I don't really care to. And I could bring up the box every single day until it gets moved. But I've matured and I've chosen not to. The box will, reach its natural conclusion at some time. Well, why be a jerk about it? Why keep prodding that thing when there's, life is short and I'd rather just be happy about it. So I turn a blind eye towards it when I'm coming up the stairs. And that's me learning.
I mean, we all learn in our own ways, Justin.
Sometimes slowly. Very slow.
The important thing is that you learn eventually. So there were plans for an American Dad film centered on Roger and set on his birth planet. However, co-creator Mike Barker's departure from the series in 2003, the project was eventually canceled. What's a project that you've left behind that you want to resurrect?
Probably the sitcom I wrote called The Department, which I loved. It has been my writing sample. So embarrassing. It has been my writing sample for about 4 years now, so I should probably write a new one. But that is the show, that is the writing sample that gave me a career, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. Every job I've gotten in the last 4 years have come from people reading that sample and believing that I am an okay writer because of it. It got really high up at, I don't know if I told you, I think I did. It got really high up at Amazon. And
really?
Yeah, at the last second, didn't go. Because why would it go? Like, there was more senior people attached to the script than me. So but it was, it was a little close to Parks and Rec. That was the big knock against it. It was set in, a Canadian federal department. And I still think the jokes really hit. I still think the structure is so tight because I worked at it all through pretty much lockdown, just trying to figure out fine-tuning characters and plot. I put a lot of work into it. I feel like it's not quite dead. Like something's going to happen with it soon. Maybe. I have nothing to go off of. It's just like kind of a vibe that it's just so good.
Half a script if you get it picked up. Half a script.
Oh, absolutely. Totally, man. You get a whole script. Are you kidding me?
A whole script?
A whole half hour. I'm not going to give you a half hour. That's just insulting.
I wrote a half hour recently. It was fun. It was not good, but it was fun.
Was that your first half hour?
Other than first original half hour, I've written like spec scripts. I've just never wrote that. Yeah, I like to work in the hour space. I like to be the funny guy in the room, as opposed to be like a half hour script or half hour space where it's like everybody's funny. I can't handle competition. I like to just be the funny guy in the drama room.
I totally get it.
Because there's space for one in a drama room, but there's not space for two. That's what I've learned. That's why I don't work.
Fair enough.
Roger's actions often blur the lines between right and wrong, challenging viewers' perceptions. Have you ever faced situations where the distinction between right and wrong wasn't clear?
Probably. Let me think. Distinction between right and wrong wasn't very clear. Moral ambiguity. What morally ambiguous? Ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous. Of course, that's the word, said the writer in quotation marks. Morally ambiguous situations have I found myself in where I'm not sure what the right thing to do is? Oh, that's a great question.
I find personally it usually revolves around like gossip. Like to me, gossip is something that I love to participate in, but not like actively. I like to listen to gossip and hear people bitch and complain, but I don't like to. I think it's always listen, but don't participate because then you become part of the problem. But you can listen to gossip and kind of get away with being like a passive observer. And I think like maybe that's problematic. I don't know.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think, I can't speak to like steel workers, but in our industry, probably in most industries have some level of gossip. I feel like creative industries probably have higher levels of gossip. Again, I have nothing to go on. I don't know if train conductors are especially bitchy, but yeah, because you've been in these rooms before. They're so hyper contained. It's just people months and months, hours and hours together, things are gonna flame up and go down and come back again, and then the room disperses. You don't see these people again, but it's a small industry, so like everyone knows everybody. I like you, yeah, like you. I try not to participate too much. Like I've had people come up to me at like industry parties and be like, "Oh, I heard that room was like really difficult. That showrunner was blah blah blah," that sort of thing. You know, you can either feed the fire and give them the juicy goss that maybe you have, maybe you don't, or you could sort of like, you know, be classy about it and be like, hey, you know, it was what it was. Like, it's over. Was it the best room I was ever in? No, not really. Vibe was off every now and again, but hey, we hit our deadlines. You know, like, yeah, that is the smart thing to do. And I will go ahead and say I've been so lucky and never been in like the bad rooms that I'm sure you and I have heard about and have had friends who may currently still be in those rooms. I've never had a bad writing, quote unquote, bad writing experience in my entire life. I've had some that were like, you know, higher tensions than others. I've seen human tears fall out of adults' faces, you know, either on set or in the room for whatever reason. But like,
listen, human tears can happen in a good room. Like I was on Burden, I cried on season 3 just because I was breaking the episode. I'm like, this is broken. And I don't know how to fucking.
Tears of frustration. I get it.
Tears of like exhaustion. I was just like, I just stepped out of the room and I was like, give me a second. I just went to my little cubicle because we had like not enough offices, but there was like a production office where we were writing, where the writer's room was, and they were all empty cubicles. So I went to my cubicle, I laid down on the ground, curled into a ball, I cried for like 20 seconds. I wiped the tears from my eyes, and I went back into the room, and I just went about my business.
Solid. That's what you got to do sometimes. Totally get it.
That's what you got to do.
It's what you got to do to get through the goddamn day. Those days, those types of days. Yeah.
So Roger's use of disguises raises questions about the nature of identity and authenticity. Do you think people often wear masks in social settings? I mean, they kind of do. What's the thing about the 3 masks? The one that you wear in public, the one you wear in private, and the one that's just for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that Kabuki or something?
That. Yeah, to me, you know, you can argue about semantics. Like, what is a mask? Does a mask inherently mean you're hiding something or hiding your true self? I wouldn't go that far. I would say that, like, you know, people put on airs. I think people, myself included, behave differently in different groups of people who have, you know, different expectations of who you are. Like, you know, at the CFC, I was one person. If I'm home in Thunder Bay with my family who's known me since birth, absolutely. I'm not a writer to them. I'm just the kid who was in that bedroom downstairs for like, you know, 20 plus years. So yeah, I think we all have different versions of ourselves, but I don't know if I quite believe that there is one true version of everybody.
Right.
I think we're
more nebulous and like changing all the time a little bit depending on where we are.
Honestly,
Adaptive.
I think we are. I think that's it. Honestly, maybe that kid when I go home, maybe that's the truest version of me, but also maybe I do think when you go home, especially with your family, maybe you've encountered this, you know, there's like a version of you that's sort of like frozen in amber, especially if you've like had time away from your family. Like I moved away from Thunder Bay over 10 years ago. Like, there is a bit of an amber version of me that I left back there, and I sort of like step back into that when I am there. But I don't know. I think the version I am in Toronto is probably a little closer to my quote unquote true self, because that's, you know, who I've been for the last few years. You know, I am my own up-to-date version here, I guess I'm trying to say. But yeah, no, I don't really believe that there's one true version of everybody. I think we're all, like you said, I think nebulous is a good one.
Okay. Having been on Earth since 1947, Roger has witnessed significant cultural shifts, adapting accordingly. What's the biggest shift in society you've experienced other than 9/11? We know.
I used to love taking razor blades onto airplanes. It was what I was made for, and now I can't do it, and it really bums me out when they pass that law.
Jesus. No, but like, what's like, you know, it could be like Obama. You know, Obama was big. Not to make it political.
Doesn't that seem like such a long time ago? Honestly, it
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
2008 was 17 years ago.
I feel like something from his inauguration came on my timeline like the last couple days, and like he looks like a child. He looks like he was late 30s. He looks so young. I guess I'm so used to like the older sort of salt and pepper Obama. I forgot that he was so young when he was president. The first Trump election, I think, taught me a lot. The first one. This one is something else completely, but the first one, where I guess not a majority of people, whatever you want to call it, but a significant amount of people in America thought that this was the guy for them, in spite of all the things they'd heard about him that were very, very true. They still sort of put that aside, and it just felt like the bad guy won on a national scale. You know, it's like the Village voting for Gaston to be mayor. You know, Beauty and the Beast reference. Maybe you didn't see it. It was a big deal.
I saw it. Beauty and the Beast.
But that's the thing about But that's the thing about like growing up on a steady diet of like Disney and Pixar movies is like the bad guy always loses. The bad guy always falls off the castle to their death, or not so much in Pixar movies, but old school Disney when they used to kill a villain. Yeah, bring that back. And then so I guess you're just kind of think the good guys are always going to win. And then you get a little bit older and something like that happens, like the first election, and you're like, oh, wait, no, sometimes the bad guys win. And sometimes they're bad their entire lives and they die bad on like in their million dollar mansions surrounded by, you know, all their various workers and things they have accomplished. And that's fine. And that's their lives. They live bad and die bad and are successful in the meantime, you know, not all of them end up in jail or get chucked from castles. So that was a big deal, just settling that in my brain.
Roger has become a staple in internet culture, with numerous memes and viral content featuring his various personas and catchphrases. What do you think the secret of going viral is?
The secret of going viral. Ask Kanye, man. He just broke the internet last weekend with his wife there.
What did he do with his wife?
Oh, you didn't see their Grammy shenanigans?
No, I don't watch the Grammys. I don't watch award shows. I'm not really into it.
Fair enough. Most are very cringy. Although I will be watching Conan host the Oscars. I think it's going to be great. Although the fire...
I thought Paul Rudd was hosting the Oscars.
No, it's Conan.
Huh.
Conan O'Brien! Although I feel like with the fires, everything's going to be very, very down and muted and demure, so maybe it won't be fun at all. Oh my God. So sorry. What was the question?
The secret to virality. But like, honestly, do you think you'd be comfortable if someone became a meme?
If I became a meme?
It's something you did. Yeah.
I was going to say if it was something like, if it was good spirited, but then I'm like, is there such a thing as a good spirited meme? Yeah, no, there is. There is. Some memes are just like an awkward look at a person. Yeah. I think you just have to tap into something. You have to you can be as outrageous as you want, as long as you're tapping into something that is very human and very real at the core of it. I think that's what gets people. I think you can dress it up in all sorts of craziness and fanciness, as long as like the central idea is something that, you know, people can actually relate to. Like the guy, the girl, the other girl walking past, the guy turning his head, you know, everyone has done that. And that's why that thing is like, you know, a billion times shared.
Is there a memeable moment from your life that you can think of?
I think my life is pretty square.
Okay, that's fair.
Maybe like one time when my toddler was like emotionally exploding in the cereal aisle, and there are two things you could do in that moment. You can either give her all the attention and like feed the fire, or you could like take a half step away and just sort of let it play out, and eventually they'll like not physically run out of oxygen, but it will run out of oxygen and they'll just stand up and be okay. So one time she was on the floor, just like pounding her little feet and little legs about something. I can't remember what. And I was over here sort of like looking at the granolas, deciding which one had the low sugars. I feel like someone got a snapshot of that moment. Just me looking at granola, my daughter losing her shit on the floor. There's something memeable there. Something about, you know, dads just not giving a fuck or something like that.
In April 2014, Roger was voted the gayest cartoon character of all time in a competition held by Logo TV, highlighting his impact on the LGBTQ plus representation in animation. Does Roger's pansexuality and androgynous nature make him a positive role model for the LGBTQ plus community?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, correct. That's correct.
Yeah. He is very sexually aggressive.
You gotta make a distinction, I think, between visibility and positivity. Because I think just because something is visible doesn't mean they're a positive impact. But visibility can have a positive impact. Like just because something is visible doesn't mean it's good. But visibility in itself is good, right?
Yeah, if you're talking
sense?
about like just normalization of things, yeah, I think that's absolutely a good thing. But Roger's sexuality, I wouldn't call it problematic because it's just it hits everything equally. I think like I wouldn't even describe him as a gay. He has sex with everything, inanimate objects, Klaus the fish. Every member of the family he has tried to get with at some point, either forcefully or with their permission, usually not. So I think that one of the beauty of that aspect of him is that he does attack everybody equally. Yeah. There are no lines. There are no like, oh no, I don't like that sort of person. He likes that sort of person. And has been with that sort of person.
It's a spectrum. Sexuality is a spectrum, and he's on every single digit of it.
And he's violated every color of the spectrum, yeah.
What do you think people will say about Roger in 50 years?
If we're around in 50 years and the internet is still working, I think people will look back at just like the supercuts of all his best moments and all the best jokes that are out there and be like, oh, maybe we should have been watching this show because it does have a small audience, a small but very vocal audience. But I think it's one of those things that like he's probably going to get his due like 10 years from now. People are going to look back. The right people are going to like discover, quote unquote, the show and be like, oh, hey, this show was great. Why didn't we tune in when it was on? I'm like, because it's kind of lame. But I think the jokes just kind of speak for themselves and the stories they've told with that character and what they've done with it. Oh, my God. Yeah, there's a reason there's a passionate fan base for this show. It hits so hard.
All right, it's time for my favorite section. I forgot to play the theme music, but it's fine. I sprinkle it in post.
Amazing.
So this one comes from Utebud Cody. Utebud Cody. YOUTBUDDCODY. Roger from American Dad is actually the Smiths' third kid, the eldest child, and he suffers from mental disorders from being abducted by aliens.
Interesting. Okay. So they have this first kid. He got all messed up, so they put him up in the attic. That is what you do with your messed up kid, traditionally.
Yeah.
And that's where you stick them, sort of chain them to the wall, chain them to the radiator, that sort of thing. That's
where Bart's brother went, right?
Oh, yeah, in the Treehouse of Horrors episode. Yeah. If I have a brother, well, I don't have a nasty scar right on my...
Hugo, I believe his name was.
Yeah, he ate fish heads. Yeah. No, I don't really buy it just because Roger's backstory is so well established and makes sense. The one you said with Area 51 and saving Stan's life. They've gone back to it so many times and revisited that I have no reason not to know.
I know, but it's just fun to think about.
It is fun to think about.
There was a similar one from Alf where like they was just like they thought that his kid he was like just a deformed child. Anyways,
with a snout.
Yeah. So this one comes from Sexy Shafter. American Dad says there are multiple Rogers and they share a hive mind. That's to explain all the disguises. So like when you see another Roger out and about, that's not Roger, it's a Roger, and they all share the same brain.
I've got to say, some of the most entertaining episodes are when they find some weird way for Roger to confront another Roger. They've done it a few times. Like he's had like personas that have gone crazy and he like talks to them in mirrors. They had one episode, I think it's called like the 200 or something, where like Roger went through like atomizer or something and it just broke him in like 200 pieces and all his different personas like took over the world. Those are really fun episodes. So yeah, I'd like to believe it just because more Rogers, more funny. I'm down with that.
This one comes from Raven King XX. Yeah,
Three
give it to you. He says the CIA know all about Roger. The TLDR is Dan pretends to be a bumbling idiot to lull Roger into a false sense of security, all the while keeping tracking of him and reporting various findings to the CIA, which in turn the CIA used to make giant leaps in various fields.
Cool. I like that one a lot. If that was like the series finale,
Right.
was like some kind of version of that story, I'd be like, yeah, that kind of makes sense actually. Because Stan, oh man, that's one thing that how the show has definitely evolved. Stan has gotten progressively stupider season to season. It's almost like inconceivable that he kept this secret for so long. Especially because the CIA is still looking for Roger, apparently. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
All right, now it's time for Mary Probe Kill. Let's Mary Kill.
Mary Probe Kill. Mary Probe Kill.
I got it, yeah.
I feel obliged to explain it every episode.
That's great.
But you know what? But I feel like people know. They get it. Mary Probe Kill, Roger, Alf, John Lithgow from Third Rock from the Sun.
Oh my God. I was never an Alf guy, so yeah. Wait, is Kill
He's
Probe?
gone?
He's gone.
Kill Alf?
He's Kill, yeah. Kill Alf. I was never an Alf guy. I found him really obnoxious and not super funny. I don't know if I just kind of missed the boat on Alf.
You did.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You weren't born when it debuted. Maybe you were.
It wasn't a part of
You're
my...
old.
Yeah. To
I'm
me,
old
the only
too.
puppets I was
Sucks.
interested in were Muppets. John Lithgow. Man, were you a Third Rock from the Sun guy?
No, I haven't. I'm doing an episode on it, and I'm like, I can't find it anywhere, so I'm watching clips online, and it's okay. It's not the best, but it's pretty funny.
It was appointment viewing for me. I was, especially for that character. Holy shit, John Lithgow was so funny. With who was the other professor? Was it Jane Curtin? It was someone from SNL.
It was Jane Curtin.
It was Jane Curtin. Oh my God, the two of them together was unbelievable. I'd probably marry John Lithgow because, that's the move. Marry John Lithgow, probe Roger. That's the move. I feel like John Lithgow would respect me as a partner, and Roger would not. To put in simple terms, Roger would not be respectful of our marriage.
So you're probing Roger, you're killing Alf, and you're marrying John Lithgow. Okay.
I think that's the move.
That. Yeah, that makes sense. Galactic pitch meeting. Pitch me on... I'm a studio executive.
Mm-hmm.
You've done this before. You're a writer. Mm-hmm. Pitch me your take on on Roger the Alien.
All right. So we have this character. His name is Roger the Alien. He lives in the Smith's attic. He got to know Stan back in the day. They have a pact. He saved Stan's life back in Area 51 during his breakout. And ever since then, Stan has offered him safe harbor in the attic, even though Stan's workplace, the CIA, is looking for Roger. So there's your inherent tension in the series. Roger can be caught at any moment. But Roger is going to be the biggest source of laughs on the show because every episode he's going to put on a different disguise and be whatever the story needs him to be in order to move forward. If Stan decides he wants to breed horses, guess who's a 5-star horse breeder? Roger Smith. If Francine decides she wants to open a library in the basement, guess who's a librarian? Roger Smith. If we need a bar in the attic, he's going to be the barman. And this sort of like character we can mold episode to episode is very unique. It's kind of what Homer Simpson kind of did in The Simpsons, in those early Simpsons episodes when he would be an astronaut one day and a real estate agent the next day. He's that character that gives us a variety to expand our storytelling and do whatever we want, combined with like Stan's CIA credentials and all the technology. You can get through that. You put those two things together and there's literally no limits on where we can go, what kind of stories we want to tell, what kind of characters we want to include.
That's it?
That's
great. That's good. That's good. It was long. It was a little long. You want your pitch to be tight. You want to be... And you know, why you? You know, like that's the most important part of pitch. You really kind of left that out. The why you. The why you.
I'm funny, man. Just give me a job.
I wish it was that simple. How does Roger stack up against a predator? Probably not good, eh?
Well, first of all, he would think the dreadlocks were hot, and
For
he
sure.
would immediately come on to Predator. Would Predator be into it? Predator?
The Yayuta.
Yeah. Has Predator ever shown sexual desire before? You know, if anyone could get it out of them, it's probably Roger. Roger knows what to touch. He knows what to tickle. He knows what to probe. You know, I think Roger would do exceptionally well against Predator, honestly.
I can't remember if it was one of the episodes you suggested I watch, but the one where he has the ass-eating scorpions.
They're rare butthole-eating scorpions, and they cost me $2,000 each.
And it's just like, oh, it's so stupid, but it's
the
so
camera
funny.
right on his face. You just know exactly what's going on behind him. Yep.
Okay, so give me your input.
Uh-huh.
What do we like better for the name of this segment? Sexy Close Encounters or Alien Bone Zone?
Sexy Close Encounters, I think, personally.
You don't want to call it the ABZ?
It's just a little more elegant, a little more elevated, but we all know what it is. So
But we could do
I like that.
ABC. Go to the Alien Bone Zone. All right, whatever. Would you have sex with Roger?
Yeah. We covered that in the last segment. I'd probe Roger. Absolutely. I think it would be thrilling for about 90 minutes before it went bad, but I would just get out after 90 minutes. Yeah, he's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. I don't think
rubber,
he can...
dude.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. But because he's like all cartilage and stuff, I don't think he could like harbor disease, which is a plus.
If you say so.
Good. No sexual organs, nothing to get infected. I feel like that's great.
Time for shout-outs. Is there anything that you've been listening to or working on that you want to shout out?
Ooh, Surreal Estate Season 3 is coming out in a couple of months. I don't think there's a date yet, but from what I understand, it's edited. It's ready to go. It will be on CTV Sci-Fi. Had so much fun working on that show. So see it when it's out. It'll also be on Crave, I believe, in Canada.
Spencer works on that show, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's the composer. He's been there since day
great.
one. Yeah, he's awesome. He's amazing.
Did you just work on Season 3?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. Myself and Hannah Cheeseman.
Nice. I love Hannah.
Yeah, she was great. She was awesome.
I should get her on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, she'd be great. Dude, she played an alien on Star Trek.
That she played a robot.
Oh. I mean, it's an alien robot. I can't remember who created the robot.
She was like turned into a robot. Did you watch the show? I don't think you watched the show. I don't think you did.
I didn't watch the later seasons of Discovery. I kind of fell off. I really like Strange New Worlds, though. What's that?
This was Season 2.
This is Season 2? Oh, God. Maybe I fell off early.
And they had our backstory. She died in Season 2.
They edit that out.
Anyways, yeah, we'll just edit the whole thing out. We'll edit out the whole podcast. Fuck it. Who gives a shit? I don't even know if I'm recording. Oh, no, I am recording. It says recording right there. Anything else you want to shout out?
Things I'm involved in, or just things I'm generally enjoying?
Anything, baby.
What
just
am I
say
watching?
Severance, and we'll move on.
I haven't started it yet. Another streaming service I have to fucking do. I don't want to get Apple. I probably will end up doing it just to watch the show.
Apple might be the best. Could be the move.
Apple's doing really well. I like Crave.
Silo, Ted Lasso.
Lasso was great. Yeah, I had a good time with that.
Monkey Paw, or what's it called? What's the one? Bad Monkey.
Yeah. I am watching Season 3 of Industry.
Oh, cool.
On the HBO show. Really enjoying it. It's so fucking good.
I haven't seen it. What industry is it?
High finance. So the elevator pitch is, what if Euphoria and Succession had a baby? It is this show. It is amazing.
Okay.
It's it's really, really good. Great acting, great directing, just great storytelling all around. Season 3. Jon Snow shows up in Season 3 as a sort of a hedge fund manager, and he's fucking amazing. He's so good. Music. What music am I listening to? I'm really into the new album by Mannequin Pussy. It made like all the top 10 lists last year. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get into this. I gotta check out this album, and it's so fucking good. It hits so hard. It reminds me of like early like Sleater Kenny or something is really, really good. Yeah, that's kind of all the time I have for like my own enjoyment of things. One album and one show.
I think if I have a song that I want to share with everybody today. Let's go with Remember by Alex G. And that's going to do it for our episode today. Listen, Roger is a complex character with complex emotions that never wears underwear. Okay, maybe he's not that complex, but, we try. Did I make a mistake? Do you have heartless criticism for my podcast? If so, you should email me at myfavoritealienpod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok at some variation of My Favorite Alien / My Favorite Alien Pod. Listen, I wish we had one, but I messed it up and I'm too lazy to fix it. Maybe in the future we will go back and we will fix it. But right now we have, I think Twitter is My Fave Alien or Fave Alien Pod or something. It's ridiculous. It's like the Twitter one because there's a limit on how long you can be.
God, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, we're out there. We're hungry to hear from you. In the meantime, keep searching, my lovelies. Mwah.